Hi, welcome to another Derek Does. Today, we're going to do these. Hi, welcome back to another Derek Does. I'm Derek, and today we're going to do something that I've always been into for a very long time, and I kind of got out of it because it kind of got a little crazy. But it's vintage paperback books, similar to these. Well, these are actually mine, but there is millions of vintage paperback books. Everyone knows what a paperback is, but the paperback book industry really didn't happen until the late 40s. And I think the very first book ever published was The Good Earth by Buck, or something Buck. Again, I think I had a couple of those. Here's the thing. When I was probably 20, I was at early 20s, I was at an auction, and there was this box full of vintage paperbacks, and I bought the whole box for like $13 or something like that, and I just became in love with vintage paperbacks. For me, again, everybody's different who's into vintage paperbacks, and the cool thing is when you're into vintage paperbacks, and when I say vintage paperbacks, first let me let you know what I'm talking about. It's from the late 40s up to probably the mid 60s. For me, that's the golden age of paperbacks. And really, the 50s is the golden age of paperbacks. There are hundreds of different publishers, from Pocket Books to Merritt to Daw to Bantam to what do we have here? Just there's Ace. These are all mostly Pockets, but then there's Avon, and then there's like. So here's how it goes. So they made paperbacks for like the modern books that were coming out. They would make a paperback version, which they normally do for anything. But then they started actually writing specifically for paperbacks and skipping the hardback editions. And even the Beatles had a song called Paperback Writer, which was over this craze of everybody and their mother was writing a paperback. Now, the things that if you're into paperbacks, and you might want to get into them, at my heyday, I had close to 1,000, and it just kind of got ridiculous. It's like I had boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of paperbacks, and for me, I never read them because I didn't want to destroy the paperback. I only bought them for the titles or the author or the covers themselves. I love these splashy covers. For me, I love that. And then I think it was Pocket Books had the map backs. So it was like if you have the mystery, you turn your book over. Do I have one here? I may have one. If I do, I'll show it to you. You turn the back over, and there's a map of what's going to be happening in the book that you're reading. So paperbacks were originally invented as a throwaway item, like a newspaper almost. So they would print the paperback on the cheapest paper they had. They put it together. It off, they put it on a newsstand, and they sold it for $0.25. So if you're going to go take a trip on a train, or if you're going somewhere, if you just want something to do, keep in mind when this was invented, there really wasn't television. I mean, it was out, but not many people had television because this is the early 50s. It wasn't until later that people could really afford televisions for the majority. So for $0.25, you could buy a book, you have great entertainment, and when you're done, you were expected kind of to toss it. Throw it away. And this is why these become collectible, especially if you can find them in fantastic condition. Of course, that's in anything, that the best condition is the best. So I'm just giving you kind of like what a paperback is, a vintage paperback. For me, I love hard-boiled detective stuff, so I would collect, well, like here, this is the Dashiell Hammett. This is Raymond Chandler, Big Sleep, another Dashiell Hammett, another Raymond Chandler. I would collect these for myself. These are the ones I kept. I sold all the others to other collectors for their collection, because the thing is, once you start collecting it, like in anything, you want the complete set. So some people would collect them just for the authors. And some of these authors are huge authors, incredibly famous authors, and others you've never heard of ever, and you'll never hear of them again. Some of them collect them for the type of book it is. because they had, like I said, for me, it was hard-boiled detectives, but there's also romance, there was sci-fi, there was westerns, there were just self-help books, there were cookbooks, there were, and then they also had books of like crossword puzzles and things like that. Now those sometimes are even worth more than the others because those were really thrown away by the time you're done. And if you could find one that hasn't been messed with, that's where the money is. And paperback books go from like 50 cents all the way up to thousands of dollars, depending on the author and how rare it is and how many were printed and that sort of thing. I was going to show you just a couple that I have because, again, my personal collection has dwindled down to maybe like 10 or 20. But if I'm out at a estate sale or if I'm at a thrift store, which you don't find them really much at thrift stores anymore because they're kind of past that time when people who would have donated them donate them. Mostly it's estate sales. Of course, you can go on eBay and that sort of thing and find them, and also booksellers. If you go to a bookstore, you can find little sections of them. Of course, they've been picked over pretty good because all the really good ones would be gone. So if you're going to find something great, it would be at an estate sale for the most part of someone who bought it new, or maybe they picked it up. It's there. So I'll show you. I'll just show you on the floor kind of some of the things I have and see if these are something like you might be interested in. It's pretty cool. So let's take a look. Sorry for such a long intro, but I was just trying to explain what a vintage paperback book is. So like this is a Maltese Falcon, and this is on a pocket book, you can see there. And they would always have the name there. Of course, when you put these up, you would have, like this is actually number, if you can see it, 268. This is a pocket book, and on the back, you can see this. Now, this book is actually during World War II, because it says you can send this book to a boy in the armed forces anywhere for only 3 cents. So this is another thing. So it's like somebody like collects pocketbooks, they would want to get from number 1 all the way up to 1,000 or whatever. So they would collect everything. Like this one is a cardinal. Now cardinal, you see that little bird there? I don't know if we can get it more. There we go. So that cardinal, those were usually repeats of other stuff. So cardinal would never really publish originals, where like a pocketbook or somebody would. Cardinals were generally reprints. So here's another pocketbook, and this is number 241, Pocketbook Mystery, Red Harvest, Dashiell Hammett. And again, this one apparently has gone up a little bit to send it to the boys. It's 4 cents, while the other one was 3 cents. And then here's another one. This is, here's your Ernie Pyle, another pocket, and this number is 274. And this one is 4 cents. This is be post-war, World War II. This is like The Big Sleep, a pocketbook. Now, see, there's some little damage there. Generally, you don't want a book with damage, but because this is the title of The Big Sleep and Raymond Chandler, it still has value. And of course, this one you cannot send to the boys overseas because the war is over. This is a sci-fi. These are just some I picked up at a thrift store recently that I was going to sell just because I can't have these not be for sale or, you know, have them ruined. So this is A Day of the Giants, Lester Del Rey. And this is on the, who manufactured this one? Oh, this is an Airmont science fiction. This is 40 cents. This is a little later. These are still, I don't know if the price is on there or not. Usually these are all a quarter. I don't see the price on that one particularly. So here's a more of a fantasy. This is on Ace. Ace was a science fiction for the most part, and sci-fi publisher. So they would always have all your science fictions and that sort of thing was on Ace for the most part. Now this is what's called an Ace double. So on this side you have this Jake's story, and then you turn it over and you have a whole nother story on this side. So this is 2 novels in one. And that's what an Ace looks like, a double looks like. And people collect these just because I think Ace was the only one that really did this. And this was 75 cents. So this is more probably like maybe a 70s paperback. If you look inside, you can find what they are. This is an early Bantam, Kid Galahad, and you can see it's a Bantam book. This one's in really nice shape. It still has its plastic cellophane on the outside, and this was it's actually an early one because this is number 133. So the earlier the number, the earlier it's published. Here's a pocket book. Now this is 656, and you can see this is a Western. Again, they did all sorts of ones, so this is still a pocket book, but this is a later one because it's in the 600s. And then they'd have books, as I just picked this one up, How to Play Canasta. This is like, so it's kind of a rare book. Many people would have bought this. This is a novel library, number 43. That's what that NL stands for. Novel library it's kind of a collectible one because they didn't publish that much. This is a Popular Library, another huge manufacturer of books. But they had different, and some people would actually collect them just for the artists who did the covers. And actually the original, one huge thing people collect is the actual original paintings for these things, which has become a huge industry. I don't have any. I kind of wish I did. But that's like that one. This one's kind of Ace in the Hole. And then sometimes they just do comedies too. This one isn't a comedy, obviously. But this is a Bantam, and this is 757. And apparently there was a hardback version of that too you could get. And then this is a Dell. Dell's huge. Dell would have all the... here's an example of the map backs. So this is Men Under the Sea. And see that keyhole? So that means it's an adventure. They would have different things for each one style of book. And this one's in pretty nice shape too. So this is 200 series, so it's pretty early. And this is Frank Meyer. But here's the map. So you could see, oh, okay, so we're going to go from South America up to New York. And they show you where they're going to go. If it is like a murder mystery, you would see like a house and like where all the buildings where things would be like that. So this is kind of what these are. These are called vintage paperbacks, and I'm sure you've seen them. The modern paperbacks I don't care about at all, really, because I would only get them to actually read. These I don't read because I don't want to crease anything, and these are so fragile that basically you just want to wrap them up and display them as an art thing. You don't want to read them because if you start reading them, the backs are going to start to split and the pages will come out because these pages are really fragile. They're like newsprint paper. Now, another thing too to look for on the old ones, they don't do on the new ones, is they colored the pages. So these are red. Sometimes they'd be blue. There's yellows. There's a blue one. So they would color these books on the edges. They don't do that anymore. So that's something, if you're like just looking through a pile of books and you see some colored paperbacks, they're probably old. And I usually just got them for the cover art. Dell had some amazing cover art. Pocketbooks had some good ones, but Dell was, for me, they had the most amazing, just like this. They're just like, I love to have that as a print on my wall, It's just really, really cool. So these are vintage paperbacks. So that's what a vintage paperback is. I'm sorry for going on, but there's so much. And I didn't even cover like probably half of anything that you could start collecting if you wanted to really get into this stuff. Because a lot of people do it, and they'll have like complete collections of everything. Different manufacturers, different artists, different authors, different, everything. So if you're into cool stuff like this, now keep in mind too, these are kind of small. So if you had a small collection of these, it wouldn't take up that much room. It's when you get to like the thousands of them, they really start to take up a lot of space. But I think they're really cool. I'm still in love with them. I still love them. And I'll still look for them and pick them up when I see them. just because I can't not do that. That's just how my brain works. So I hope this got you a little bit maybe into paperbacks, at least vintage stuff. Of course, you could collect more of the 70s or 80s, because there was tons. You could collect all like the Star Treks, and there's a ton of sci-fi stuff that was out there, and fantasy, and the Conans and all that stuff. You could do that, or you could do, you know, I know there's even some Stephen King. He wrote stuff in a different name, a pseudonym, and you can find some of those, and those are worth hundreds of dollars. So there's tons of stuff you can get into. It's a cool hobby, and it might be for you. It may not. Maybe this isn't your thing, but if you stuck this far, maybe you're kind of interested. So I hope you learned a little bit, and I'll see you on the next Derek Does. Thanks for watching.